Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. This is our first of what we hope to be very mini cooking demonstrations. And today we're going to be making microwave potato soup. I'm Dietitian Julie Palmer with Dietitian in Your Kitchen. And we have a couple special guests with us today too. We have Jordan. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Jordan. I'm a dietetic intern with Ohio State's Human Nutrition Program, and I am with Dietitian in Your Kitchen for about 4 weeks right now.
Thank you. And then we have Minister Aaron Hopkins.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be out here with on behalf of Southside Family Farms and our Southside community. Excited about the relationship with Miss Julie Palmer and Dietitian in Your Kitchen, and even to have my mom and on and the other guests, just that we can learn about eating healthy and really understanding more about dietary needs in our community. So we're glad to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, just so some of you are new to this demo, understanding the relationship. So I met Minister Aaron through a mutual colleague, and he and I have been working together. He is the owner and operator of Southside Family Farms, which is an urban farm right here in Columbus that is looking to do a whole bunch of really cool stuff in our community. Agricultural education, CSA, community food access. Minister Aaron, I'm sure, could talk a lot more about that, and I'll have him do that throughout this presentation. But it's a fantastic organization, and events like this, help get the word out. And if you can donate, even $5, that would be amazing. You can donate just through the Eventbrite that you signed in on. And then our final guest is Minister Aaron's mother, Mrs. Lois Hopkins. Lois, say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to see that he's going to behave himself and not talk too much and let Julie make the soup. And we'll have samples.
Just something that doesn't exist.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, so Lois is my inspiration for today's cooking. So I reached out to her. She has a strong culinary and nutrition background and education. And she suggested that we do a microwave soup with potatoes, and I thought that was a really cool idea. So here we go. Is anyone cooking along with us, or is everyone just watching?
Oh, somebody, Maria, she's cooking. Put her hand up.
Oh, Mara, Are you cooking with us?
Yep,
okay,
I am.
Good to know. Awesome, great. All right, so I will keep that in mind. And Mari, at any point, if you need me to slow up or slow down, just let me know, okay? Awesome. All right, so let's get started. So your first step is to gather all of your ingredients. We have potatoes. I just used yellow Yukon Gold potatoes. You could use red potatoes. I don't know, I would just change it a little bit. But these are fine. I've got carrots over here. I've got celery, white onion, fresh parsley. I have some seasonings. I have rosemary, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And then I have milk. You can use just regular milk. Today I'm using soy milk. It's an unsweetened soy milk because I don't do dairy. I'm lactose intolerant. And I find that this unsweetened soy milk cooks up pretty similar to regular milk. So that is what I am using today. So the first thing you're going to do is wash all of your vegetables really well. I don't peel them. Okay, I keep the skins on. It's good fiber. So wash all of your vegetables, scrub them if you have like a scrubby, like a scouring pad or a brush, but just don't use soap. So for Mari at home, we'll give Mari time to do that. And while we're washing, Jordan, do you have any tips for us about, or thoughts about the nutrition of what we're getting ready to make?
Yeah, so I can talk about some of the ingredients that we're using today. The first one would be potatoes, which Julie just talked about, and potatoes are a really good source of potassium. which is really important for keeping blood pressure regulated because it can regulate sodium in the body. So potassium levels are important for that. It also has a lot of fiber, and fiber we know is really great for weight regulation. It also helps with keeping bowels moving and by making our stool softer, and lowers cholesterol and regulates blood sugar. And fiber is one that's going to be in all of the vegetables that we're talking about. So it's also in carrots and celery. Carrots are going to be high in a lot of vitamins and minerals. Some of the ones, the less high ones are vitamin K, vitamin C, potassium, fiber, as I mentioned, calcium, iron. And then what most of us think of when we think of carrots is probably vitamin A. And that's because carrots have a lot of beta carotene, which is then turned into vitamin A in the body. And beta carotene, which we've probably been told before, can protect our eyes from the sun and also keeps them healthy. And it can also lower the risk for other complications to our eyes. And then carrots also have a lot of antioxidants, and antioxidants are really important for fighting off free radicals, which cause inflammation in the body. And those can lead to chronic diseases such as cancer, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes. And antioxidants are one that we get, again, from all of our fruits and vegetables, and they're really important for fighting off some of those diseases.
Great. Thanks, Jordan. We'll come back to Jordan maybe, and then we'll start chopping. Is that good?
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, let's go chop our taters. So, how do we chop a potato? Yeah, you can see this. Yeah, you guys can see this. All right, cut it in half. And then you always want to do flat surfaces. So cut it in half, put it on a flat surface. When you cut, think of your hand like a little claw. Oh, there we go. Like a claw. You want your fingers tucked in, your fingertips on top of the food, and you want to chop like that. You don't want to chop like this. I am very bad about this. I do chop like this a lot, and I slice the ends of my fingers off a lot. So don't be like me. Do the claw, and we're going to make a couple of cuts in the top of the potato. Okay, turn it around, claw, more cuts. Here we go. And I think I'm going to do even one more. So I'm taking each cut section, flipping it over, and dicing it. Like Jordan said, we are leaving the skins on for this. The skins have a ton of fiber. Take a section out, flip it, dice, dice. So we want all that fiber, like Jordan said, to help keep us regular, to reduce our risk of heart disease, all of that. Making slices, chopping. I think it's interesting, Jordan. I didn't know that carrots were really high in vitamin C. I wouldn't have thought about that, but that totally makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of those vitamin A foods are also vitamin C. But yeah, most of those I think were just trace amounts, but they've got lots of stuff in them.
That's cool. Thanks. All right, so we're gonna do that with all of our potatoes. Just go ahead and give them a dice. Uh-oh, did you see that? I'm flattening my hand. Claw. It's all about the claw. Turn it. And I'm gonna slice each of these sections again. So one of the most important things when you are cooking a lot of vegetables, fresh produce, is to have a really good knife. And this is something when I go into people's homes, when I'm doing consultations and kitchen checkups, I find that a lot of people don't have a good chef's knife like this. So in order to do the kind of cuts that we're making, you need this big heavy knife. Yes, you can cut a potato with a paring knife. It's going to take a lot longer. And it's not be as efficient. So good investment here. You know, they're not super expensive. They can be, but you know, a decent chef's knife is pretty affordable.
I'm going to just chime in on that because Probably 10 years ago, my mom bought me a set of Cutco knives, and they are rather expensive, but it completely changed my life. I had no idea how important having a good set of knives are.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
I don't sell Cutco or anything. I just wanted to chime in.
Yeah, thanks, Mari. Yeah, oh my gosh, right? Like, it is incredible. One thing I'm quite guilty of is not keeping my knife sharp. So that's another thing with maintenance of your knife. Keep it sharp. We have a little sharpening truck in Clintonville where I live, called Sharpening on Site. It's up by the grocery store. And I always need to take my knives over there, and I never do it. So that is something else to think about.
Mm-hmm.
While I'm chopping potatoes, maybe Minister Aaron, do you want to talk a little more about the farm and the mission and some of the things you got going on?
Yeah, you've mentioned, thank you, Miss Julie, and man, I'm just getting hungry just watching you get that all prepped up and ready. But yeah, and so you kind of hit the main thing about fresh food access, which is a challenge in our community. That the closest grocery store sometimes can be almost 2 miles away. There's transportation challenges in our community that people don't always have access to a vehicle, and so it proves to be challenging. And then it's not right on the major bus line. They don't live on the major bus line, but fresh food access is a big challenge. And then we have a lot of corner stores in our community, and they don't always carry the fresh vegetables. And so it is our mission to make it more accessible through the farm. And we're developing a CSA, that's community supported agriculture, where we're going to be delivering produce boxes once a week that'll have 6 to 8 fresh vegetables and herbs in our boxes. And we're going to have some recipes in there, like even Mom's famous microwave potato soup that'll give them economical and easy ways to prepare a healthy meal. And so I like what Taylor was sharing about even carotene. What did she say that was? Beta carotene. And so that was good. And so that was some good information. And so we just want to educate our community that might not be aware of those nutritional values and the health benefits of healthy cooking and eating fresh fruits and vegetables. And so carry on. It looks wonderful. Mm-hmm.
Chopped, and I am going to put them in my microwave safe bowl. I have like a Corningware that you can put in the microwave. It's got a lid on it. This is a really nice thing to have if you're going to do a lot of microwave cooking. In general, I don't recommend microwaving in plastic. It's not that you can't do it. It's just that sometimes that will make the plastic release some harmful substances that you may not want in your body. But if if that's all you got, it's better to eat vegetables that are microwaved in plastic than not to eat them at all. So just a tip.
I have a question right there, Miss Julie, if I could, instead of putting it in the chat box. So far as using the Corning instead of plastic, does it take any longer to microwave using Corning? And so just any thoughts around that?
It does. It takes a little longer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's more go through, glass and ceramic. Those are naturally going to stop the heat from getting in. So yeah, it takes a little longer. Time this recipe, I don't know how long it takes. Ms. Hopkins told me I was going to go for 5 minutes. Let's see if that does it. So I'm going to stick my chopped potatoes in the microwave for about 5 minutes with the cover on. The cover helps retain the moisture. And then we'll do some more chopping and talking, and then we'll see if these are done. 5 minutes on high, nothing fancy. We'll let them go. All right. How you doing there, Mari? You need some more time?
Maybe a minute.
Okay. Mr. Grant, another question. What about the negative aspects we hear about potatoes, primarily like the starch? Yeah, that is a fantastic question. Jordan, do you want to take this one, talking about like potatoes and blood sugar and?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So if you are like a diabetic, then potatoes are going to be something that you are going to have to monitor in your diet because it does count as a starch or a carbohydrate. However, they are not something that you cannot eat if you have diabetes. And that's one of the things. So we are using soy milk in this recipe, and it has a lot of protein, soy does. And so it actually will help to regulate some of those starch levels. And so when we're eating starches and carbohydrates, we want to just make sure that we're leveling them out with proteins and fats so that they're not necessarily causing our blood sugar levels to rise too much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And that's what I like about this. We get vegetables, but just like Jordan said, we're moderating that with non-starchy veggies like carrots, celery, onion. We have milk, which has protein and fat. So just like Jordan said, all of these ingredients together is a way to enjoy potatoes without so much raise in blood sugar. All right, let's move on to our carrots and celery. This recipe, I said just one carrot and one celery. We'll stick to that. And if we feel excited and we feel like we want more carrots and celery, we can always make more. All right, so I have a whole carrot. I didn't peel it, I just scrubbed it. Often when I cook a carrot, I don't peel it. I listened to a chef the other day, and he said, he was like, when do you peel it and when do you not peel it? How do you know? And he said, well, I just taste it. And if it tastes good with the peel on, then I leave it on. And if it doesn't taste good, I take it off. And I thought that was a really smart, interesting way to think about it. So usually I grew up just peeling carrots just on the regular. So we're gonna use our unpeeled carrot. Nicely scrubbed though. Take your big knife, cut the top off, and then we're gonna cut this carrot into some manageable sections. I'm gonna do 3 sections. Kind of cut it into thirds. Cut that little end bit off. All right, so we've got our sections. Be very careful, use your claw to stabilize that carrot. Knife goes on top of the carrot, slice it in half, and lay the flat halves on the cutting board. Same with this littler guy. Flat halves, always flat surfaces. All right, I'm gonna cut these bigger ones, see that? These bigger ones into smaller matchsticks, about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch. And then I'm gonna take my matchsticks, I'm gonna rack them up in a little square, hold on to them with my claw, and cut dices out of those matchsticks. Nope, I'm losing it. There you go, you have a nice small dice. So because we're using the microwave, I want to make sure things are cut small. The smaller something is cut, the quicker it will cook in the microwave. So we'll do the same to all of our carrots.
Julie, if I could just add some comment.
Yeah.
I had carrots yesterday that were quite large and too large for me to cut with my dull knife. So I softened them a little bit before I even tried to cut them. I put them in the microwave and then softened them, and then I took them out and cut them into manageable sizes.
Very good. And so that's something I know that we'll be passing along in the garden, and a point that we can even give in our boxes when we give recipes, because we do aim to service a lot of the seniors in our community, and that might be a challenge for other people.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, you can always do that to help soften things up and make them easier to chop. I know I love like big winter squashes, like butternut squash and acorn squash, and I cannot cut them. I am not strong enough to like put this whole knife through this hard squash. So yeah, I'll put them in the microwave for like 5 minutes and let them cool, and then they're easier. Thank you for that. That was a fantastic tip. All right, we chopped our carrots. I'll put those to the side. Should have maybe got a plate. Oh well. Now we're gonna chop our celery. Same basic operation. Well, I've scrubbed it pretty well. We could use this part. I don't typically, just because it's not as pretty. But what you could do is save these little end bits. And you know what? I'm right by my freezer. Show and tell. What I do is I save all my little veggie in bits. You probably can't see this very well, but my onion peels, my carrot tops, I just put them in the freezer in a bag, and then about once a month, I throw all of this into a crock pot with some water and a little bit of salt, maybe some herbs, and I make soup stock. It's delicious. It'll keep in your fridge in a jar. This is a great way to eliminate some food waste and save some money. So we're chopping our celery. Yeah, chop off these bits. Same thing, maybe just slice it in half long ways. 2 big long doodles there. Use your claw and just dice it. So you notice when you have the big knife, you can kind of do like a seesaw motion. So the tip of the knife stays on the board and the rest of the knife sort of slides along, and I slide the vegetables in with my fingers. Fancy what about celery, Jordan? Does celery have any nutritional value?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because yeah, I think celery is one of those vegetables that we kind of don't talk about as much, or people just kind of talk about how they're really low in calories. But celery is actually very closely related to carrots and parsnips, which make them, again, similar to carrots, that they're high in fiber and high in antioxidants. And there's a lot of research about celery as well. One of the things that is kind of coming up in research is the ability for celery to regulate blood pressure. Again, so there's phytochemicals in celery that can relax our artery walls and promote a healthy blood flow. And one of the newer ones is also the role of celery in possibly Alzheimer's prevention and treatment. And some research has shown that celery seed extract can improve both cognition and memory, which could have a role in both treating and preventing Alzheimer's. So that's what newer, but maybe as more research comes out, we'll kind of learn more about that. And then also I wanted to ask, add, because I saw Minister Aaron had a question about fats in the chat box. So I'll go ahead and talk about that.
Go for it.
Before we get back, he said, so you discussed fats, and he said, I love fresh butter, not margarine in soups. Are those the fats also needed to moderate those carbohydrates? And again, that's a really good question. So any fat, I think, will be adequate for regulating blood pressure, or regulating carbohydrates down, or regulating blood sugar. So the answer is yes, butter would count, but we do want to be cautious with butter, of course, because we know that butter has a little bit of, or a high amount of saturated fat. So when it comes to blood pressure, we do want to be a little bit more cautious with the amount of butter that we're adding. And we want to go more towards like healthier fats, like maybe olive oil would be a really good one. So maybe in a recipe, if you have butter, you could kind of do a half and half with butter and olive oil. If it's something like a soup where you could use olive oil as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
No, I like that. I think that very much fits in line with what we're making here. Because we're making it in the microwave, I'm not actually adding any fat. Now, if I was doing this on the stove top, I might saute my carrots and celery with some olive oil. But you'll notice in the recipe, that I said just add a little pat of butter at the end, right on top. And that gives it that buttery flavor, but you're not saturating the whole thing with butter. Okay, I've taken my potatoes out of the microwave. Be careful, there is steam. I'm gonna release the lid away from me. We're gonna see if these are done. Just gonna grab one and eat it. It's pretty soft. No.
It's the cookie is falling.
Mm-mm.
We said you
They're soft.
One more time. All right, back in. Almost there. We want our potatoes pretty soft. You're gonna mash half of them. All right. Those are back in. Now.
How long did you put them in for, Julie?
5 more minutes.
Okay.
Thanks for asking. Yeah, I want them like super duper soft. All right, we're gonna chop our onion. We're gonna use about half an onion. So I'm taking the end off and I'm slicing it in half. Okay, not too much onion. You could also use green onion in the soup. I think that would be good. Now, Lois, you make a French onion soup that's very similar to this, and you use a lot of onions. Tell us about that.
Well, for the onion soup, I just microwave the onions, or to save time, I might saute them in butter while I'm doing the potatoes. And then I just dump them all in together, but I don't use the other vegetables as much. So when I'm doing the onion soup, it's just mostly onions and potatoes, and then my white sauce. And then if I'm going to make put cheese in it, I'll put that on top of the French onion soup.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to modify this. That'd be a fun thing to do. You could totally do that. Again, if you had the stovetop, making like a white sauce, which would be a good cooking topic for another demo. Maybe we could do sauces. All right, so I've taken my onion, I've sliced the top off, and I've cut it in half. So now I'm going to cut it just in rows, so kind of chunky to start, about maybe 4 cuts at the top. Okay, turn it around the other way, claw hand to support it. Dice the other way. And then I might just take it with the flat of my hand and go over it a couple of times. Just make sure it's really flat. This is not the fancy onion chopping, chef chopping. It's just get it done chopping. So kind of use my knife like a little seesaw.
I'm always amazed at how fast those chefs can chop those vegetables. That's a technique.
It's so cool, isn't it? I like stuff like that. I like all those knife tricks like on YouTube. You can go on and watch like chefs, like sushi chefs, a lot of sushi chefs and Japanese chefs. They make really fancy cut vegetables. That'd be fun for the farm. We could have a fancy vegetable cutting day. All right, so my veggies are chopped, and I am going to set those aside. We don't need them quite yet. My onion peels out of the way. Okay, so let's talk back. While we're waiting for our potatoes to finish up, do we have any questions?
I did just have a comment. Miss Julie. You know, when you were preparing that, you mentioned about when you were talking about cutting the potatoes, you mentioned about butternut squash. And I was thinking about how you can make some wonderful soups with a cream base or a milk base, much like you're making potato soup. And so I was just curious because we're always trying to educate our community on the vegetable families. And so I just took time to Google it just now to make sure I was correct that the potato is in the Solanase family and the butternut and the other squashes are in the cucurbit family. And but I like them both in soups, just using squashes in soups, butternut a butternut soup. You know, I'm not sure where I had that, but it was wonderful, and it was a cream base, and it also had some slight vegetables in it. You know, other than, you know, I don't know if it was celery and green onion, but it was something that gave it a very distinctive but mild taste. And so I like soups. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
just,
I do too. I think I missed part of your question. You were asking about potatoes and
Why don't you just pick up some extra?
oh, I was just talking about the different families that those are in, as opposed
yeah.
to Solanase and then cucurbit families. We're always trying to educate people on the farm. I was just making a comment.
No, that's cool. I think that's a cool point. I mean, starchy vegetables are not all created equal, right? Sometimes we just put like a blanket over them and say, you know, starchy vegetables are bad. A lot of clients I see say, like, corn, isn't like corn bad for you, sweet corn? Or, you know, I shouldn't eat potatoes, I shouldn't eat winter squash. And that's simply not true. Those starchy vegetables are very different. They have different vitamins and minerals. They have a lot of benefits. So we should be eating them. It should be a staple of our diets.
Mhm. So is squash considered to be a starchy food?
Like a winter squash would be, like a pumpkin or potatoes. Pumpkin or like butternut squash, acorn squash. Those would be considered starchy. But the overall effect on your blood sugar is a lot less than a potato. So that's another good substitute. You know, there's an awesome recipe that I have that's a squash and carrot soup with peanut butter in it, which is really different and really good. Maybe we'll make that sometime.
Ooh, that sounds like that.
Yeah, it's wild. All right, I'm taking my potatoes out. I think these are very soft and ready to go. Pile that away. Now we're going to take half of the potatoes. Ooh, come here. And we are going to put them into a separate bowl. And this is going to be our sort of our mashed potato bowl. Spoon them out, about half or more. I mean, this is up to you. This is the part where you are the chef and you get to decide what your food is like. If you want a smoother soup, use more potatoes. If you want a chunkier soup, leave more in. You pick. I'm going to do about half. And then I'm going to measure out my milk into this bowl. I'm going to start with 2 cups of milk, and then we'll see where we go from there. About 2 cups of milk. Pour it into your bowl. You not actually do all of that. It's like 1 3/4. So I poured about 1 3/4 cup of milk into this bowl. I'm just going to take a fork. You can't really see this. Maybe I'll show you when it's done. I'm taking a fork. I'm just running it through and giving my potatoes a little bit of a mash. We want them to be pureed. Now, this is, again, we're going simple cooking here. Low equipment cooking. If I wanted to get fancy with it, I could put this mixture into a blender. Or if you have like an immersion blender, a hand blender, you could use that. You could use a potato masher device to do this. But a fork works okay too. So as you're mashing, starting to see some of that starch thicken the milk. Your mixture should be getting a little thicker.
Man, I should have been cooking over here too, man. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, next time.
Oh, that's
All right.
awesome.
And then I'm going to actually throw in and microwave other veggies too. I'm just throwing them in with the same potatoes. You can't really overcook them. They softer, which for a soup, that's what you want.
How's Miss Mari doing up there? You doing okay? Okay, all right.
A shortcut that I do, I use some powdered potatoes. If I want, is rather than mashing them, I might add some potato flakes and thicken my soup.
Good idea.
That would
To
work
do,
great.
you would
Thicken the
put
soup.
them right in with the right in with the milk and potato mix.
Milk with the milk, yeah. Just make it thin.
Oh, I like that idea.
Uh-huh.
All right, and we're putting our veggies in the microwave for, again, about 5 minutes. All right. those
Julie, are
in.
you putting the veggies in with the potatoes? The other half of
Yep.
the potatoes? Okay.
I am. Yeah, I'm just leaving it all in there.
Yeah.
All in. All right.
And Miss Julie, I didn't get to mention you know, just that growing up, that experience of cooking with my mom. My mom was a school teacher. Just wanted to share it. She's a school teacher in the Columbus City school system. Was it 42 years, Ma?
42 years.
42
Until they
years.
took her back out of the classroom.
Yeah. And so even
I
at
love that.
even at that point that she just made, that they took home ec out of the city schools. That is one of the that's one of the challenges that we face in our inner city community, is a lot of the vegetables that we're growing. We have young families that are not familiar with the vegetables, and then also how to cook them. And so we plan, even with Miss Julie and cooking in the kitchen, we're going to bring the kitchen to the garden. And we're planning on having lots of cooking demonstrations where people then, once this COVID thing is passed, where we can actually be able to sample and they can be more familiar and be then more apt to prepare those at home.
But I use the microwave because I'm for quick cooking. I don't have a lot of time to cook. So that's why I use the microwave, and I adapted that to my own recipes to make it easier, quicker. I'm for quick.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's so many benefits. And microwaving, I believe, and Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it preserve some of the nutrients in food to cook them in the microwave?
That I don't really know much
because
about.
you're not using the water to boil the potatoes and everything. You're not using that. Even if I'm going to make potato salad or something, I'll cook them in the microwave first, and they're already softened.
Yeah. All right, so let's start. So it's parsley. If you have dried parsley, go ahead and put it in. I'm going to use fresh parsley. Look at this thing. It's like a potted soup. This was like one. This was a small cake. It was, I don't know.
We lost Julie. Oh, okay.
And we're going to chop it up. So I just like kind of roll it in my fingers. Just kind of fold it over and roll it in like a little ball. And I chop it and use that seesaw motion again. Kind of go back and forth. So my hand's stabilizing the front, my other hand's chopping off the back. Rack it up every now and then. Keep chopping.
All right, Julie. Got it going.
Yeah, we gotta get a good chop. I know we want big plates. Parsley is a really cool herb. Parsley, you know, we think of it as just being like a garnish. It's very, very good for you. Parsley is good for your digestion. So I'm just putting this parsley in with the milk and mashed potatoes. Parsley can help.
Ellen, hand me that one box on top back there. On behind the TV.
Next, we have rosemary. Again, I have fresh rosemary. I'm very lucky, and hopefully we will all be very lucky to be able to get this out of a garden. The kind of rosemary I have in my garden is like a year-round perennial, so that's a nice thing that I can grow. So if you have fresh, you know, use fresh about, looks like about a tablespoon. If you have dried, use like a teaspoon. Same thing, I'm just gonna chop up my rosemary. This is a great herb. So we're using all these herbs. We don't have to add salt. At least not so much salt. We're gonna add a little bit of salt. Rosemary in the soup.
And so, Miss Julie, when you say that, because you've got rosemary and different herbs, it does not have the same characteristics of salt, but it gives you more flavor. Is that what people would find? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So fresh herbs, you know, they are providing you with tons of flavor. They're not going to raise blood pressure. So they're always a healthy choice. You know, I think one of the things that people miss when we're thinking about healthy cooking, and Lois, you can chime in on this too. I'm sure you have thoughts on this, but I think people forget that they can season their food. You know, they're like, oh, it's healthy, so it has to be plain, and that's not true at all. Like seasoning, spices, flavors, you know, that makes food wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I use a lot of garlic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Garlic's also wonderful for you. Good for blood pressure. Excellent. Good for immunity. I like garlic too. Let's do garlic. So I have my garlic here. I'm just using garlic powder. Usually I like to use fresh garlic. For this soup, because we're not using the stovetop, I'm just using garlic powder, so it'll dissolve and mix throughout the soup. I'm going to start with a ½ teaspoon and see how I feel about that later. And then I have white pepper. If you've never used white pepper, it's a common ingredient in a lot of like Asian food, Chinese food. You can use black pepper if you don't have white pepper. But again, I like white pepper in a white soup. I like the flavor it gives. I'm gonna do about a ½ teaspoon of white pepper. It's pretty strong, it's pretty zingy. I'm gonna do a little bit of salt, like a pinch. And then this is my secret ingredient, nutmeg. I love nutmeg with anything creamy or milky. It makes it really good. And you think of nutmeg in like cookies, desserts, super good in savory foods. This is a whole nutmeg seed. You'll see that? Yeah. And this is a nutmeg grater. You can also just buy it ground. But I really like buying the whole nuts. I think it's fun. And I'm just going to grate it into my soup. About again, a ½ teaspoon if you're measuring at home. I just want to grate it.
Miss Julie, where were you able to find the whole nutmeg nut?
You can just find them in the spice aisle with everything else. They're there. Probably most likely to find them around Christmas time. That's when people usually buy them, like for eggnog but yeah, spice aisle. A lot of grocery stores are doing bulk foods now. So that's something to look for. Yeah. Oh, and it smells so good.
Mm-hmm. So what is the storage? How would you store that, the nutmeg once you started grating that? Is that something you would have to keep in the ice box now, or can it still be dried?
Yeah, it's totally dry. Like I grated it, you see, it's totally dry. It's like a peach pit. So this just stays in my pantry in a little glass jar, just like all my other spices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
I'm actually up there trying to put my nose towards the screen, see if I can't smell it.
Smell-o-vision. I know, it's the most wonderful fragrance. Nutmeg, it's so good. Okay, so I think my mash is done. I'm going to taste it and see what I think of the spices, and I can always adjust. I'm gonna add more rosemary. I really like the flavor. So, more rosemary for me. But yeah, you can taste it however you want. I think that's the other thing about cooking. Sometimes we get nervous, like, oh, I gotta follow the recipe. I put too much in, I didn't put enough in. But really, it's up to your personal taste. And I think that's what makes cooking fun and creative. Alrighty, that is done. I'm gonna grab our veggies out of the microwave one last time. They are really hot by now. Steamy. a little test. See if they're done. Oh, they look really done. They look good. Again, I don't like my veggies too soft. I like them with a little bit of bite still. Fogging up my glasses. Oh yeah, perfect for my taste. What do you think? How are yours, Mari? Mari's hard at work. All right, so my veggies are done. My mixture is done. It's seasoned. Now it's time to combine them. Yeah, I don't really need that. I'm going to combine the liquidy mash into the other stuff and not spill it all over the table. Maybe. I'm a really messy cook. I like to be messy, and my husband doesn't mind doing dishes. It's really good. It's a good marriage.
We've got the same thing going on.
Yeah, nice. Oh, this is looking really nice. Oh, it's very hot. I'll show y'all. I can do it without spilling. Oh, there it is.
Man.
Looking really good. It's chunky. It's like a stew. And now I'm going to add the final piece. And the final piece is some cornstarch. Where's my cornstarch? Okay, cornstarch. So when Lois sent me the recipe, she makes like a roux on the stovetop. So she mixes butter and flour and whisks it and adds milk to make like a thick white sauce, which is a totally good technique. Because we're using a microwave, we don't have that option. But I still want to make this nice and thick. So you can use cornstarch to thicken things as well. A little goes a long way. With cornstarch, I'm going to do maybe a teaspoon. And I'm going to put my teaspoon of cornstarch into cold or room temperature water. Always put it into cold water. Cornstarch is magical. It dissolves super easy in cold water. This is called a slurry. This is our slurry of cornstarch in cold water. And as soon as it hits the hot soup, it'll start to thicken. It's really cool. So we're going to stir it in. Stir in our slurry, making sure we get it all. Stir it up, let it sit, and in about a minute, this will be a really thick, hearty soup. Spoon it into bowls, put a little pat of butter on it if you want. You don't have to. Oh yeah, and one last thing. Last minute addition. I forgot about this. Okay, so protein powder. I didn't think about this when I made the recipe, but I like to get unflavored, unsweetened protein powder. And it's a great thing to mix into like a savory soup like this. You're not really going to taste it. The soup doesn't really have a lot of protein. It's got a lot of vegetables. It's got a little bit of protein from the milk. But if you really want to make it protein rich, you could add a scoop of protein powder and mix that through. So I think I'm going to do that.
Where do you get that unflavored protein powder?
This one, I want to say I ordered it online. This is, ooh, can you see that? It's called Sun Warrior. It's a pea-based, like a vegetarian protein. But you can find them, like unflavored whey protein is pretty common. You can find that most stores, they have like vitamins and protein powders.
You can find it in the pharmacy department also.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Lois.
Really?
Nice. I'm mixing in my protein powder. Final step.
And so why protein? Why protein and protein powder? What does protein do?
Protein is the building blocks for the body. And if you use a protein powder, that's just without the gristle and the bones and all of that. So it's just the powder of it. It makes it convenient.
Okay.
And I have a bone broth protein, and I order that online. You can order it in beef. So if you can make it, I ordered the beef base. So if you come over, you might can talk me out of a can of it.
Okay. I heard that. We're gonna have to get together and put that soup on together. Miss Julie, you're getting hungry.
I'll have that soup made before you can get over here.
I love it. Anybody else have any
demonstrating? she's doing it the nice way. Julie, she's got everything organized and she's doing it really nice and for the demonstration, but I have that stuff ready before he gets here.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I don't cook like this normally at home. This is all for TV. I spent time. No, I don't cook like this at home. It's a flurry and a mess, and things are flying, and it's just great. Any final thoughts, questions? Does anybody else want to share any thoughts or any thing that you want to say?
Julie, show me like a spoonful of your soup.
So it's pretty thick. No, you can get I don't know if you can get an idea by that. It's pretty thick. It's like stewy. It's definitely like coating the inside of my measuring cup when I take it out. How's yours?
Mine is more chunky.
More chunky? Maybe just keep mashing it. Give it a little more mash.
I think it's still gonna be really good though.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? Like, actually, it's potato soup, and it was all potato in it. It was kind of interesting. It was just very different. So better way. But as we finish up here, I just want to run that in the email I sent you before this, you can find information about Southside Family Farms, as well as myself, Dietitian in Your Kitchen. Excuse me. We really appreciate you attending. We appreciate your support. Please follow Southside Family Farms on social media. It's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, Twitter. Are we on Twitter, Mr. Aaron?
Yes, we are.
All right, we are on Twitter. And anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, this is really great. And just one takeaway that I heard today, you and Taylor were bringing out some great bullet points on nutritional values of the different, like the celery and the carrots and different nutrition. I think we'll add some bullet points just to kind of bullet out some of those things that you were talking about. And even the point that my mom was just talking about, building blocks, protein being a building block. And so I think, I've learned a lot today, and not just having an appetite, but I learned a lot today. And so
wait, I got one other thing. A lot of your families are getting food from the pantries, and they give powdered milk. So you could enrich that with powdered milk when you're putting the water in, and add nutrition, add the protein with powdered milk.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Lois. That is super important. That would be a great cooking demo for us to do in the future, is things that you can use powdered milk to make, because powdered milk is, you can just drink it straight, but I agree, it's much better to add to cooking, and that is a great way to add protein to this soup that would be much more affordable than like a protein powder. Yeah, thank you, Lois.
I have a question about how this soup would perhaps freeze.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I wonder if it would change the texture of the potato. Does anybody have a thought on that? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Like, I know when you refrigerate potatoes, they are less. They become a little harder. They kind of lose some of their texture. I don't know about freezing it. Try it. Any final thoughts, questions?
I vote we do this on Monday because I have commitments like every other night, and I was so excited that this was on a Monday.
Hey, that's what it is. Yeah, the next one will be the last Monday in February, same time. So yeah, we'd love to have you. And anybody have thoughts on what you'd like to make in February? I'm totally open to suggestions.
Well, what I loved about this, and this may kind of go along with what Minister Aaron is saying is this is a very economical dish, and that might be something that is going to be great for his community.
Mhm.
So I'm all for that for even for us. So
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, let's keep it affordable. Let's keep it down to earth.
simple ingredients.
Yeah, yeah. And I thank you, and I thank you for being here today.
It's Mari.
All right.
Mari. Say it again.
It's a little bit different. It's Mari.
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 Okay. Yep, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
here, and man, I was peeking over in your pot too, man. You making me hungry too, and so we're glad to have you here cooking with us today. Oh my
Yep.
gosh, that looks delicious. And so just one of the suggestions that I thought about, because I've been putting our plant list, you know, what we're going to be growing for this season, and one thing we added was leeks. And I understand that leeks are not in season until, I guess, the fall of the year or maybe early in the year. I'm not sure if anybody's done a lot of cooking with leeks. I don't know, Ma, did we grow up eating any leeks?
No, I never bought these.
Mhm. Yeah, it was just a thought, you know, since we are doing different types of soups and doing dishes like that. So it's just a thought. Uh-huh.
That sounds good.
But,
Yep.
we were, Julie, we were talking, Minister Hopkins and I had been talking about eggplant and using eggplant with cheese, just cheese on top of the eggplant. So that might be one that I had looked up a couple recipes and seen it demonstrated. And so I have some recipes to share with you. You might want to think about.
Thank you. I would really appreciate, you know, your guidance and your knowledge. You have a wealth of it from a lifetime of experience. That would be incredible.
I've been cooking all my life.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, eggplant is a mysterious vegetable to many people. It's one of my favorite vegetables.
You don't know how to use it.
They don't know how to cook it, and often they undercook it. I find, and they think it's gross because they didn't cook it right. Yeah.
I'll send you some tips because I had been researching vegetables, just the vegetables that they cook, and I found some exciting vegetables that I didn't even know about, ways to cook, like cucumbers. And Asians use a lot of cucumbers in their stir-fried cucumbers, sweet and sour, and really exciting recipes.
Oh, I love that. Oh, very cool. Well, this is wonderful. Yeah, you know, anyone on this call, feel free to always, you know, send ideas, send your comments. I would really appreciate any feedback that you have about this demo, improvements, things you want to see next time. You can email me at Julie, Julie, at dietitianinyourkitchen.com. And dietitian is spelled with 2 T's, Dietition, dietitianinyourkitchen.com. All right, we're going to sign off now. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
I wanted to thank Alma. I think that's Alma and Marie also for being here with us today and participating. And so I saw their names there, and I saw Alma for a minute. But we just want to say thank you to all of you guys being here this evening. Yeah, very good.
Thank you. Thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
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 Yes. Bye-bye.